Hi, welcome to Kevin Alone's audiobook reading Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Part 2.13. My former business partner, for example, would get upset when I turned away business. I would tell him that a potential client didn't feel right. That would frustrate him to no end because the client's money was as good as everyone else's, he would tell me. He couldn't understand the reason for my decision, and worse, I couldn't explain it. It was just a feeling I had. In contrast, these days I can easily explain why I'm in business to inspire people to do the things that inspire them. If I were to make the same decision now for the same gut reason, there is no debate because everyone is clear why the decision was made. We turn away business because those potential clients don't believe what we believe, and they're not interested in anything to do with inspiring people. With a clear sense of why, a debate to take on a bad fit clients to turn into a discussion of whether the imbalance is worth the short term gain they may give us. The goal of business should not be to do business with anyone who simply wants what you have. It should be to focus on the people who believe what you believe. When we are selective about doing business only with those who believe in our why, trust emerges. Part 3. Leaders need a following. The emergence of trust. To say that most of the company's employees were embarrassed to work there was an understatement. It was no secret that the employees felt mistreated. And if a company mistreats their people, just watch how the employees treat their customers. Mud rolls downhill, and if you're the one standing at the bottom, you get hit with the full brunt. In a company, that's usually the customer. Throughout the 1980s, this was life at Continental Airlines, the worst airline in the industry. I could see Continental's biggest problem the second I walked in the door in February of 1994. Gordon Beaton wrote in From Worst to First, the chief executive's first-hand account of Continental's turnaround. It was a crummy place to work. Employees were surely to customer, surely to each other, and ashamed of their company. You can't have a good product without people who like coming to work. Just can't be done, he recounts. Herb Kelleher, the head of Southwest for 20 years, was considered a heretic for posting the notion that it is a company's responsibility to look after the employees first. Happy employees ensure happy customers, he said, and happy customers ensure happy shareholders, in that order. Fortunately, Beaton shared this heretical belief. Some would argue that the reason Continental's culture was so poisonous was that the company was struggling. They would tell you that it's hard for executives to focus on anything other than survival when a company is facing hard times. Once we get profitable again, the logic went, then we will take a look at everything else. And without a doubt, throughout the 1980s and early 1990s, Continental struggled. The company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection twice in 8 years, once in 1983 and again in 1991, and managed to go through 10 CEOs in a decade. In 1994, the year Beaton took over as the newest CEO, the company had lost $600 million and ranked last in every measurable performance category. But all that didn't last long once Bethune arrived. The very next year, Continental made $250 million and was soon ranked as one of the best companies to work for in America. And while Bethune made significant changes to improve the operations, the greatest gains were in performance category that is nearly impossible to measure: trust. Trust does not emerge simply because a seller makes a rational case why the customer should buy a product or service, or because an executive promises change. Trust is not a checklist. Fulfilling all your responsibilities does not create trust. Trust is a feeling, not a rational experience. We trust some people and companies, even when things go wrong. And we don't trust others, even though everything might have gone exactly as it should have. A completed checklist does not guarantee trust. Trust begins to emerge when we have a sense that another person or organization is driven by things other than their own self gain. With trust comes a sense of value, real value, not just value equated with money. Value, by definition, is the transference of trust. You can't convince someone you have value, just as you can convince someone to trust you. You have to earn trust by communicating and demonstrating that you share the same values and beliefs. You have to talk about your why and prove it with what you do. Again, a why is just a belief. Hows are the actions we take to realize that belief? And what are the result of those actions? When all three are in balance, trust is built and value is perceived. This is what Bitcoin was able to do. There are many talented executives with the ability to manage operations, but great leadership is not based solely on great operational ability. Leading is not the same as being the leader. Being the leader means you hold the highest rank, either by earning it, good fortune, or navigating internal politics. Leading, however, means that others willingly follow you, not because they have to, not because they are paid to, but because they want to. Frank Lorenzo, CEO before Bitcoin, may have been the leader of Continental, but Gordon Bitton knew how to lead the company. Those who lead are able to do so because those who follow trust that the decisions made at the top have the best interests of the group at heart. In turn, those who trust work hard because they feel like they're working for something bigger than themselves. Prior to Bitton's arrival, the 20th floor of the company's headquarters, the executive floor, was off limits to most people. The executive suites were locked, the suites were locked too. Only those with the rank or senior vice president or higher were permitted to visit. Key cards were required to get onto the floor. Security cameras were ubiquitous, and armed guards roamed the floor to eliminate any doubt that the security was no joke. Clearly, the company suffered from trust issues. One story handed down was that Frank Lorenzo would not even drink a soda on a continental plane if he didn't open the can himself. He didn't trust anyone. It is no great leap of logic that no one trusted him. It's hard to lead when those whom you are supposed to be